All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, never a dull moment in the cannabis sector in this country. There is another segment in the cannabis sector that we're going to talk about today with the Hash Corporation, and Chris Savoie is CEO of the Hash Corporation and joins us on the show. Good to see you once again, Chris. We're going to talk about hash and hashish and the Hash Corporation first. Give us an introduction and how we got started here. Where'd the idea come from?
Sure. So first off, good morning, Brennan, and thanks for having me this morning. So the Hash Corporation is a very focused cannabis company. The management team of it has a background working in the medical space and cannabis branding and product development prior to legalization. As we've seen kind of legalization on the horizon, we all kind of took a step back from what we were doing at that time. And really watched and seen what some of the big guys were doing, some of the mistakes that they were making, and we looked for opportunities to enter a niche part of the market, and to be a little frugal with our spending, and kind of come in and be the responsible players that actually understand the space and the consumer and the products. Fast forward a bit, and here we are.
Yeah, let's dig into some of those products that you mentioned. For those unaware, why don't we, really kind of describe what it is we're talking about here? And you have a great kind of imagery that you like to use when you're describing this that is a very good way of understanding exactly what it is we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, hash is probably the oldest and most traditional form of cannabis after, like, the plant or flower itself. It's believed to have been in use in Asia for 6,000 years or more. So, I mean, what we're talking about is definitely not a new product to the market here or abroad. It's an all-natural cannabis extract, so meaning it's made without the use of any solvents or added ingredients. It's just quite simply cannabis. So if you take a cannabis bud and you look at it, it's covered in all of these glistening trichomes. Some people might refer to them as crystals or kind of other things. So what's in these trichomes, though, is that's where all the cannabis goodness is stored. So that's where you're going to find the THC and the terpenes and all the stuff that you really want to consume. So if you think about the cannabis flower like an apple tree now, we take that apple tree and we shake it so that all of the apples fall off. We collect those apples and we press it into a brick of hash. Hash ends up, in my opinion, being like a much more efficient smoke because, I mean, at the end of the day, like when I'm eating a fruit, I'm eating the fruit, not the whole tree. So, I mean, with that said, like in 2019, I was fortunate enough to travel to the Rif Mountains in Morocco and study the culture and methods of hash making and what's believed to be the largest producer in the world. It was an incredible experience to be there. But the really funny thing is that I'm surrounded by all of these cannabis fields, but nobody had or consumed cannabis. It was exclusively for hash production. The cannabis to them was just an input. There was no use for it by itself.
Lots of history behind the product, obviously. Let's talk about the overall market share here in the marketplace, because no one can deny the cannabis industry as a whole has had its struggles. What sets this apart in your mind? What's going to make this product different and maybe a little more appealing to the market?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few hash products that have reached the Canadian regulated market now over the past year. Most of them have been made by the big guys that are out there kind of making all of the full gamut of products, everything from flower to edibles to vape pens, kind of the jack of all trades, if you will. So, I mean, what makes Hashco and our upcoming products a bit different is that we're uniquely focused just on the production of traditional hash. And developing other hash-based products. We aren't out here trying to do everything or make the next great breakthrough in cannabis technology. I mean, we know exactly what hash consumers want. They've been consuming it in the medical and legacy market for years, and we're just trying to deliver it to them within the regulated framework. The nostalgic hash products that people remember from the 90s, 80s, 70s, et cetera, just aren't available on the regulated shelves, and we're aiming to change that with our products.
Let's talk.
We want the consumer to have that authentic experience, but the confidence that it's clean and regulated.
Let's talk about the retail aspect of this, because we're getting to a point. We're sitting here in Toronto, and Chris, you're well aware You know, it's getting to a point where there's a cannabis store almost on every block, if not multiple stores on every block. You know, in your mind, what's going to be the difference maker here when it comes to the hash products, you know, kind of standing out in these stores?
Yeah, so I mean, that's going to come down to marketing and consumer awareness. I also like to believe that by putting out a high quality product that people enjoy and want to consume and is what they're looking for, it's going to drive them to come back and seek out that product. Right now, we're seeing kind of a huge uptake on those hash products because it feels like the consumer is really trying to find what they want and what they're accustomed to. It's the repurchases that are what's going to make the difference, right? And getting them to come back for your product time and time again.
And let's talk about those products. What is the current offerings from the Hash Corporation? Give everyone an overview of what they can expect.
Yeah, so I mean, currently right now, we're finalizing our final regulatory stage to get our products, our brand retailed to market. We do have one white label agreement in place. That's a 12-month agreement. So we are working on that, and we're in several various stages of negotiations for others. In addition to that, we are focused on getting our own brand to market in both Canadian and U.S. market. So we are working with some established relationships in California to enter the market there with, I guess, a low CapEx venture of setting up with a co-packer to have our products made to specification and packaged and distributed there. By entering the California market with kind of a dipping our toes in approach like this, we're confident that it's going to give us the opportunity to feel out and prove the market, and hopefully set up a home base in anticipation of interstate cannabis business being a thing down there in the medium term.
I want to talk a little bit about the regulation side of things, both in the U.S. and in Canada. The company is currently partnered with two different license holders, one on the retail side, one on the manufacturing side. Just to clarify for anyone who's wondering, talk about what type of license is required for these products. And then secondly, just to wrap up here, Chris, how does it look on the regulation side in the U.S. at this point when it comes to hash products?
Sure. So, I mean, cannabis legalization in Canada has been great. However, the licensing system and process definitely isn't quick or cheap to get through, as you can see by some of the spending from the earlier first movers in the rec space. As such, we made the decision, as you mentioned, to team up with two existing license holders, both of them in the GTA. So we're set up to work within both of their license processing spaces, actually. This allowed us to get set up and keep our overhead low and drastically reduce our time to reach market. To make and sell hash in Canada, there's two license components that are required. You need one to first produce the products, and then you need a second one to allow the facility to sell that product to retailers or provincial buying boards or kind of whatever the distribution channel is for it. Altogether, this process can take several years to complete. Once you have one license, you need to then complete additional steps to kind of unlock the next one, almost like a video game, it would seem. And it is kind of comical where they anticipate or they expect businesses to just be able to carry for several years in a lot of cases before actually generating any revenue or making sales. So in the U.S., I guess the big struggle down there with regulations is that it's patchwork. So every state has its own set of rules. There's no transactions that can occur from one state to another. So making it where if you want to set up in all of the regulated states, well, you need to have production and distribution licenses within each of those states, kind of making it pretty tough to compete without huge outlay of costs.
It's an interesting idea and an interesting concept, as we said, one that dates way back to almost the beginning of time. We wish you nothing but success, guys. REZN, if you want to check it out, brand new listing or recent listing, anyways, on the CSE here in Canada. Chris Savoie, CEO of the Hash Corporation. Great to have you today.
Thanks again for having me, Brandon. Have a great day.
You as well. There we go, guys. A look at the Hash Corporation again. REZN on the CSE.